good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Proverbs 18 and verse 22. When I think of the most powerful experience I've had in my entire life, this I would say happened on October 13th, 2001, when I became Mrs. Roy Washington Anderson. It was so ironic that this is my most powerful moment. You see, all my teenage years, I never wanted to get married. After all, no one in my immediate circle was married, and they often talk about marriage as a form of trap, a way for women to become subordinate to their partners. So I wanted to have absolutely no part in something like that. I was going to become successful, I was going to make my own money, and I was going to do whatever I wanted. I would have no one to tell me what I can and cannot do. Then it was January 25th, 1997, that I first entertained the concept of maybe I think, I probably would be married. It all happened when I attended my first wedding. The bride was so immaculate. Her dress was all white, her shoes were golden, and her makeup was flawless. It was so hard for me to believe at that point that this was my friend Simone. After all, she wasn't, all that pretty. It was the other amazing thing that I found out was that everybody at the wedding, they all seemed to be extremely happy. I then thought, okay, maybe I could entertain the concept of being married. But then I was not going to just marry anybody at this point in time. I was going to marry someone that I thought was exceptional. So, us ladies, I got out the list. Oh, yes, that special list. It is that list that, as ladies we carry around. The list that outlined the exact height that our husband is supposed to be, the weight he's supposed to be, the body mass index that he's supposed to be, the cha-ching that's in the bank, and yes, the yacht that we're going to sail on our honeymoon. It's so funny. Then in 1999, I met a very humble and well-spoken gentleman. His name was Roy Washington Anderson. He was a Christian, and he always spoke about the Lord and how happy he was serving God. I was a Christian too, and I noticed that he was somewhat more excited about his Christianity, and he was always very passionate about God. And he always talked about how God was there for him as a young man and all the things that God did for him. And somewhat his level of excitement was very different than mine. He would always talk about praying and committing all his ways to God. He even shared how he would talk to God about his plans before he actually did it. What? I mean, I, as a Christian, I really did share my plans with the Lord, but oftentimes it would be after my plan wasn't working out, and then I would go to God complaining that, oh Lord, why is it that my good plan is not working out? You know what I mean? I guess some of us have done that before. Then there was the issue of my reading God's Word. I always thought that, okay, I don't really need to read God's Word every single day. I go to church on a Sunday, and that was good. I would read the Word on a Sunday. But then Roy would say, no, God is your friend. And then he would say, how would you feel if you had a friend and your friend only wanted to get to know you once a week? So at that point, I realized that it was very important for me to read God's Word. And Roy would call me and he would check up on me, have you been reading the Word today? What did you read about? Did you like what you read? And that was really very charming, I thought. Roy and I quickly became very good friends. We did a lot of work, ministry work together. We read the Bible. We spent a lot of time doing ministry work, feeding the poor, helping the sick. We would go by the schools of kids and ensure that, they were doing their homework and that sort of a thing. But, it was not always good for Roy and I, because there was a lot of times when I wanted to be like the famous singer Frank Sinatra. I did it my way. Yes, there were many times I wanted to do things my way. And I would get very mad when things wasn't done my way. But Roy, being so patient and a real godly man, he would often say, okay, let's go to the Word. Let's see what God says about this issue and that issue. And it was really, really good to know that he was using God's Word as his guide. Sometimes, to be honest, that made me really, really mad. But I've come to understand that you can never be mad with the Lord. You will never win. Then the time came that I thought maybe, okay, I would revisit my list to see, how Roy measured up with what I had on the list. I realized I really could check nothing off on the list that I had, because the things I was looking for wasn't really there. Roy wasn't tall, and he wasn't rich with material things. And as for the body mass index, well, let's just say he was off a little. But alas, God showed me that a good husband should be God-fearing, able to lead his house. He should be the priest of his house. He should love his wife, and he should be willing to be used by God to accomplish God's plan for his life. And I started to pray and ask God to help me to really not look at the material things and the outside things, but to look at who my husband is on the inside. And then eventually Roy asked me to marry him, and this took place on June 20th in about 1991. To be honest, I was very, very surprised that he asked me, because I always thought, well, I'm not the easiest person to get along with. But I said yes. I said yes. And so we got married on October 13, 2001. And then we live happily ever after. No. That's not true. That's not really how it worked. You see, no marriage is free of conflict. What enables a couple to endure is how they handle conflicts. I found in Roy a godly man and a true friend. It is therefore no wonder that this is my account of my happiest moment in my life thus far. And I just want to say that for those of you that are searching for your husband or your wife, I would suggest that you try to marry your friend. Because, it is my belief that happy marriages are based on deep friendships. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my most happiest memory and account of life thus far.